Written on singer Pete Burns' face is over 2 decades of plastic surgery.
I'm proud to be a Black American. I am proud of my race. I am proud of who I am.
The 1980s gave us rock legends who ruled the world with their wild looks and untamed energy. But behind the stage lights, some of these icons made choices that would haunt them forever. One superstar had over 300 surgeries after a single nose job went horribly wrong. Another broke his nose during rehearsal and couldn't stop going back for more work. A third used a hotel accident as cover for a complete facial overhaul. These weren't just touch-ups. These were transformations so extreme that fans didn't recognize their heroes anymore. Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson's change did not happen in one moment. It moved slowly, then picked up speed, and after a while it felt like his face was no longer his own. By the time he passed away in 2009, people said he had gone through dozens of cosmetic procedures. The most dramatic changes were in his nose, his jaw, and the shade of his skin. It began early. In the early 1970s, he fell during a dance rehearsal and broke his nose. The bone was not set right, so he had surgery to fix it. That first step opened a path he kept walking. Over the years, he had more rhinoplasties. Some experts say he had up to 5. Each one shaped his nose a little more. Some say too much. His father used to call him Big Nose when he was young, and those words stayed with him. They shaped the way he looked at himself. As he grew older, he wanted a face that felt different from the one he was born with. So he kept changing. He reportedly had a chin implant, then lifts, then cheekbone work. Little by little, he moved away from the boyish face people remembered from the Jackson 5 years. His skin grew lighter. He said it was vitiligo, a condition that takes pigment away. Many believed that, but some whispered about treatments and bleaching. In 2009, he checked into a private clinic again. Dr. Stephen Hoeflin, a famous name in plastic surgery, was said to be doing some of the work. These changes did not stay only on the surface. They started to hurt him. Too many surgeries affected the inside of his nose. The nasal valves weakened, and breathing became harder. It affected how he sang. It even made dancing more difficult. In the end, he looked almost unrecognizable. His story became a quiet warning about how fame, old wounds, and the need to be perfect can slowly reshape a person until even their reflection feels like a stranger. Pete Burns. And then there was Pete Burns, another story that slipped out of control. He was bold, loud, full of color. The lead singer of Dead or Alive. His story began in 1984 after he got headbutted in Liverpool during his punk days. His nose broke, so he went for rhinoplasty. It went horribly. He woke up with half his nose missing. The strange part was that on the same day his song, You Spin Me Round, reached #1. One moment, he was on top of the world. The next he stared at a face he did not recognize. He kept going back for more work. More than 300 surgeries in his lifetime. 4 nose jobs, 2 sets of cheek implants, endless lip procedures. He said he was remodeling his own clay. He talked about it openly. He said he was never finished. Everything changed in 2006 when a lip augmentation went wrong. The permanent filler moved across his face. It caused infections and left holes that leaked yellow fluid. Doctors had to do close to 200 reconstructive surgeries to fix it. They even took tissue from his stomach to rebuild his lips. The surgeries were heavy on his body. They caused blood clots in his legs, his heart, and his lungs. He almost died several times. He sued the surgeon, Dr. Maurizio Viel, for £1 million and later settled for $450,000. But even the money could not give him back the life he had. The surgeries left him depressed and bankrupt. He could not sing anymore. The voice that once carried his career was damaged. His final years were filled with more health problems, kidney stones, infections, all linked to the procedures he had done. Kenny Rogers. Kenny Rogers had spent decades building a face people trusted. A calm smile, soft eyes, that warm look that matched the voice behind the gambler. But as the late 1990s rolled in and the early 2000s followed, something inside him grew uneasy. His career was slowing, his age was showing, and he started thinking about ways to keep up with the world around him. One choice led to another, and soon he stepped into a surgeon's office hoping for a small change that would keep him looking fresh. By 2006, he finally spoke about it without holding back. He shared that he went through several cosmetic procedures. He had an upper eyelid lift, a lower eyelid lift, a brow lift, all done by a top surgeon. He wanted a younger look. He wanted a bit of spark that could bring him back into the spotlight. At first, he thought it might work. Then he saw the mirror. And suddenly, the world did not look the same anymore. The surgery took away more skin and fat from his upper eyelids than he expected. His eyes looked hollow and stretched. His brows sat higher than they should, giving him a look he never asked for. People said he looked surprised all the time. Some said he looked like a stranger. And for the first time in his long career, the man whose face once felt as familiar as a friend now felt distant from himself. He did not hide from the truth. In interviews, he joked that he had become the plastic surgery king. Then he stopped joking and admitted he regretted the work around his eyes. He talked about how he wondered every day how he might have looked if he had just stayed away from the knife. Some fans understood. Some felt sad for him. Others believed the surgeries took away the natural charm that once pulled them in so easily. Gene Simmons. Gene Simmons was 57 when he surprised his fans in 2007 and told the world what he had done to his face. People knew him as the loud and fearless Kiss bassist, the man with the tongue and the armor. But they did not expect him to step into a clinic and let cameras follow every moment. Yet he did it anyway. He went in for a facelift with Shannon Tweed, and the whole thing played out on their show, Gene Simmons' Family Jewels. You could see the work being done on his sagging jowls, the loose skin around his neck, the eyelid lift, the pec liposuction. He said he wanted to keep his look strong and masculine. That was rare for male rock stars back then, and he knew it, but he still said it out loud. Then he explained something that went deeper than vanity. He talked about the 2 broken noses he had suffered earlier in life and the shattered cheekbone that had pushed him into reconstructive surgery long before anyone knew. He said he had chosen the wrong surgeons at times and that each mistake forced him into another operation. One procedure tried to fix the last one. Then the next one tried to fix that. It turned into a loop he could not escape for a while. When he finally spoke about it and let people watch his recovery, it opened a new window into how hard plastic surgery can be on men, especially when the first foundation is already damaged. His honesty made people look at male cosmetic surgery in a new way, because he did not hide the pain or the pressure behind it. Axl Rose. People watched him change slowly at first. Then, all at once. Fans compared his face from the late 1980s to the mid-2000s and could not believe how different he looked. His cheeks grew fuller. His nose looked slimmer. His skin stayed tight, even as he moved into his 60s. Surgeons who studied the photos pointed to signs of a facelift that can lift skin upward, rhinoplasty that can refine the nose, eyelid work that sharpens the eyes, and possibly some lip fillers. Some felt he had touched almost every part of his face. The shift became even clearer during the Not in This Lifetime tour, from 2016 to 2018. Under the bright stage lights, his jawline looked carved and smooth. His skin looked almost untouched by time. People whispered about Botox and heavy chemical peels. Others pointed to cheek implants because his facial volume looked different, especially around the middle of his face. When a before and after collage went viral, the debate exploded. It showed him in the early 1990s beside shots from 2017 and 2025, and the contrast felt sharp enough to spark arguments everywhere. Some fans felt sad. They said the surgeries had washed away the wild edge that made him Axl Rose in the first place. Others said he had every right to change his face, if that made him feel better. Through all of it, Axl stayed silent. He never confirmed anything. He never denied anything. The only thing people had was the visual story of his face as it shifted over the years and the expert opinions that kept pouring in. Even now, the debate keeps moving. People look at his face and ask what he did, what he did not do, and where the line sits between aging and intervention. And so Axl Rose, the man who once tore through stadiums with a voice that shook the world, became one of the clearest examples of how a rock star's face can change so much that it turns into a mystery of its own. Steven Tyler. Steven Tyler had always been wild on stage, and people loved him for that raw voice and that chaotic energy. Still, no one expected the way his face would change over the years. It started in 2011 when he slipped in a hotel shower in Paraguay. The fall hit him hard. He walked out with a black eye, a broken tooth, and a deep cut near his eye that would not stop bleeding. They rushed him to a hospital, and by the time he came out, he joked that they stitched his eye, fixed his tooth, and did a little plastic surgery all at once. He winked when he said it, but behind that joke, people sensed there was more going on. Right after that accident, his face looked different. Not just healed, but reshaped. His jawline looked sharper. The wrinkles around his cheeks and forehead seemed lighter. His skin looked smoother under the lights. Then experts began talking. They believed he had a facelift or maybe a brow lift and even a neck lift to tighten the skin. They said he might have had fillers like Perlane or Radiesse placed in his cheeks to add volume. His under-eye area looked fuller too, and the symmetry of his face seemed more balanced than before. People noticed his forehead looked smoother, which pointed toward Botox. One change led to another, and soon fans were asking what really happened during that hospital visit. And that is when the argument started. Some said it was all necessary because of the fall. Others believed he used the accident as a chance to overhaul everything. After he came back to the spotlight, he kept wearing sunglasses, even indoors. That made people whisper even more. Some joked he looked like a whole new person. Others said they missed his old face because it carried the history of his years in rock. The debate grew louder until it became one of the most talked about transformations in recent celebrity history. It showed how one moment in a shower and a few choices after can reshape a star's entire image. Vince Neil had always lived loud, but his shift in appearance surprised even his biggest fans. Over time, he opened up in interviews and admitted to all kinds of procedures. A brow lift, eye lifts on both the top and bottom, a partial facelift, cheek implants, a nose job, jawline sculpting. One surgery after another until his face looked smoother and tighter than before. His jowls disappeared. His jeans went from size 39 to 31. People stared at before and after photos and argued if it was still the same man they grew up watching. His transformation did not happen quietly. In 2005, a reality special called Remaking Vince Neil showed everything: the weight loss, the surgeries, the effort to rebuild his image. He said he did it to feel better about himself. But some longtime fans felt something slipped away in the process. They said he had lost that rough edge, that made him stand out in the 80s. They felt his face looked too stiff, too perfect, almost like a doll. The comments were not always kind. Still, he kept moving forward, even when life added more weight on his shoulders. In recent years, the story behind his health made everything more emotional. It turned out he had suffered multiple strokes, not just one. He had to relearn how to walk. That alone delayed major shows and forced him to step back when the world expected him to keep going. When you look at all of it together, the surgeries, the show, the strokes, the pressure of being a rock star, you start to see a man trying to hold on to who he once was while fighting everything that time threw at him. Ozzy Osbourne. Ozzy Osbourne spent years shocking the world with his voice, his chaos, and his wild rock life, but the changes that came later were even more surprising. They did not come from the stage. They came from surgeries that slowly reshaped his face, and from medical emergencies that changed his whole body. In 2012, he finally admitted that he had a facelift and a nose job. He said it made him feel more confident, and he said it with a smile. But people had been whispering long before that. His face looked too smooth for a man who had lived like he did. Too young, too polished. Some doctors even pointed out that this could not just be the effect of quitting alcohol and drugs. They saw signs of real cosmetic work, the kind that lifts the jawline and softens the eyes in a way that no clean lifestyle ever could. And Ozzy knew people were talking, yet he did not hide from it. Things took a darker turn later. In October 2018, his right thumb swelled so badly that it looked like a light bulb. The pain was so sharp that he needed emergency hand surgery. The tour he had planned fell apart right there. Only a few months later, in January 2019, he fell at home and broke his neck. That fall changed everything. Doctors had to insert metal plates and screws into his spine, and what should have been a long recovery turned into something far worse. He stayed 3 months in the hospital. The pain stayed even longer. He later learned that some of the hardware in his spine might not have been needed. Instead of helping, it caused more problems. Cracked vertebrae, severe blood clots, nerve damage that kept him awake at night. Even after more surgeries, stem cell treatments, and physical therapy, his body stayed weak. His voice was still strong, but his spine was not. He told fans with a heavy heart that he could not tour anymore. He said it was one of the hardest things he ever had to admit. Paul Stanley. Paul Stanley grew up with a secret he carried into every room. His right ear was misshapen, and he could not hear from that side because of microtia, a birth defect that followed him everywhere. He still went on stage with Kiss and lit up arenas, but that silence on one side was always there. In 1982, he finally decided to fix it. The surgery was so intense that doctors took cartilage from one of his ribs and shaped it into a new ear, then covered it with skin grafts until it looked natural. When he woke up, his life felt different. The change was so real that he later gave his surgeon a Rolex watch as a thank you. Even fans noticed something had shifted. His hair suddenly fell longer on one side because he was covering the area while it healed. He spoke openly about still not being able to hear from that ear, but he never regretted what he did. The transformation was so strong that people online still argue about whether his face looks plastic or enhanced as time passed. But the ear was only the beginning. Years of running across stages in giant platform boots left him with a list of injuries that sounded like a map of his body. He had both rotator cuffs repaired, he had one hip replaced in 2004, and another soon after when complications came in. Later, he tore a bicep and needed a screw and stitches in 2016. Thousands of shows had pushed him forward, yet every landing, every split, every jump took something away. Now he knows he will need a third hip surgery in the future. Sometimes he laughs and calls every scar something he earned. Other times, he admits that things he shrugged off 40 years ago now hurt when he wakes up. Fans talk about how much he changed over the years, and some feel his face almost shifted into someone else after all those surgeries and the weight of aging. Still, Paul never pulled back. He turned all that pain into something bigger by speaking up for people with facial differences. He supported groups like About Face and tried to help anyone who felt the way he once did. His story became a mix of medical shock, rock star grit, and the truth about what a lifetime of performing can do to a body. Through it all, he never said he wished things had gone differently. Tommy Lee. Then there is Tommy Lee, whose changes happened in a different way. He exploded into the world with Mötley Crüe in the 80s, wild and sharp and full of speed, but time pushed him towards something else. One of the biggest transformations came from his teeth. In the early 2010s, he started fixing things that had bothered him for years. Misalignment, chipped edges, discoloration. By 2015, his smile looked brighter and more even. By 2020, it turned into something almost unreal with porcelain veneers and implants done in Turkey at the Lima Dental Clinic. Fans saw the difference right away. His old, rough grin was gone, and in its place was a white, perfect smile that almost felt too polished for the drummer they once knew. But not everything he went through was cosmetic. In 2023, he had to face a hand surgery that lasted hours to fix Dupuytren contracture and carpal tunnel syndrome. Both conditions threatened the very thing he relied on to play. He posted photos of his recovery that showed every stitch and bruise. Some fans could not handle the sight. Others praised him for being open. When he healed, he said the surgery had given him his life and moneymakers back. Still, the talk about his appearance never stopped. People pointed out that his face looked tighter, and his eyes looked smaller, almost beady, and wondered if he had work done around his eyelids or jaw. Many longtime fans felt the man they remembered from the 80s had faded into someone almost unrecognizable. Billy Idol. Billy Idol once walked onto every stage with that wild bleached hair, that sharp stare, and that sneer everyone in the 1980s tried to copy. People thought he was untouchable, but the years started shaping him in ways no one expected. It began in 1990, when he crashed his Harley and shattered his legs so badly that doctors had to spend hours in surgery trying to save it. They pushed a steel rod into his limb and told him straight that without it, he might have lost the leg. He later said the orthopedic and plastic surgeons worked magic, and that magic kept him whole. But his face carried a different kind of story. It went back to 1984 during the filming of Eyes Without a Face. He wore hard contact lenses for 2 straight days and never took them out. When the shoot ended, he flew to Tucson still wearing them. Somewhere outside a venue, he collapsed. A sheriff found him, pointed a gun at him, and Idol could barely understand what was happening because the lenses had fused to his corneas. He was rushed to a hospital and spent 2 days with his eyes wrapped until the corneas healed. One wrong moment, and he could have lost his sight forever. As time passed, fans noticed something else. His look had changed again. Some said he had gone through several cosmetic procedures. People talked about facial tightening or maybe a rhinoplasty. Even close friends joked that he looked a bit like Julie Walters. The mix of accidents, aging, and cosmetic work turned him into a kind of symbol. He became the example people use when they talk about how far rock stars will go to hold on to their image. And all of this sat on top of a life already filled with danger. The heavy drugs, the late nights, the stunts that never seemed to scare him. Everything added fuel to the rumors and the fascination. His life moved fast and sometimes too close to the edge. Cher had already lived a full life on stage when the world started noticing that she was changing in ways that felt bold and almost unreal. It began quietly in 1984 when she sat across from Terry Wogan and admitted she had gotten her first cosmetic procedure. She did not talk much, but the change spoke for her. The bump on her nose was gone. The bridge looked smoother. The tip looked sharper. Her face looked more defined, and it made people stare a little longer than before. Around that same time, she talked about getting breast augmentation, though she later called the results botched in every way. She said her breasts looked worse after the surgery than before, and anyone who compared photos from that era could see the sudden increase in volume. Still, her own words made the story heavier than any picture could. Even then, her journey did not slow down. As the late 1980s arrived, rumors rushed toward her faster than any spotlight. One magazine in 1988, Paris Match, claimed she had ribs removed to make her waist smaller. It sounded wild, and Cher took it seriously enough to sue them. She kept saying it was not true. She explained that if she had done something that extreme, she would never have been able to hide the scars, especially with the kind of clothes she wore on stage and in her workout commercials. Yet the rumor refused to disappear. It hovered around her for years and became part of her public story, whether she liked it or not. While all this noise grew louder, Cher kept changing in quieter ways. She straightened her teeth in the mid-80s and tried braces for a while. She even removed them right before the Academy Awards in 1984, when she was nominated for Silkwood. Her smile became bright and even, almost glowing compared to her earlier, slightly crooked teeth. The shift was small compared to everything else happening around her, but it still added to the growing list of changes fans could not ignore. Then the 1990s arrived, and her face seemed to reset. People who followed her closely believed she had undergone a full facelift. Her neck looked smooth, her skin looked younger. Some critics said her features looked a little pulled over time, but that did not stop the fascination. As the years moved ahead, she seemed to rely on fillers and Botox. Her cheeks looked rounder, her lips looked fuller. Her face lost some of the natural slimness she once had. By the early 2000s, her skin hardly showed sagging at all. Soft injections and fat grafting helped her hold on to a look that seemed untouched by age.